Welcome to the Better Lives podcast with Central Willamette Credit Union. My name is Rebecca, and with me today is Michelle. Michelle, say hello.
Hi, everyone.
Today, we're honored to be joined by Helen Higgins, CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Corvallis. Helen has dedicated her career to creating opportunities for children and families in our community, leading one of the most impactful youth organizations here in the Mid-Willamette Valley. With a deep sense of calling and years of leadership experience, she brings both vision and heart to her role. Helen, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, well, thank you for the invite.
Absolutely. So I think we're just going to dive right in. And we're going to talk a little bit about your journey to leadership, because I know just from our conversations, it kind of looks a little bit different than some other folks that might be leading nonprofit organizations.
Yeah.
So can you share a little bit about yourself and your career path leading up to your role as CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Corvallis?
Yeah, absolutely. It is kind of an interesting path. So my big vision back in college was I was going to be a professional tennis player. I was going to teach tennis and run a club, and that was my big idea. So after I got out of college, we moved over to Boise. Couldn't find a job, so I ended up overqualified or underqualified. Got the assistant women's tennis coach job at Boise State, and then I also got hired with Hewlett-Packard to do phone support for LaserJet printers. So started down that path. I discovered pretty quickly that teaching tennis and recreation does not jive well with having a family, because people recreate when it's the weekends or the evenings. So we had our first child, a couple of years after being there, and I was like, this isn't going to work. So at the same time, I got hired on full-time with HP and just sort of started my career there and spent 18 years doing a variety of things. I started out in tech support. I did helped with product design with the different engineering teams, because they were really great about bringing in these cross-functional teams. So the idea is to bring different perspectives to the table so that you can design the best products, right? Ran an environmental team for 5 years, if you can believe that. I managed PhD toxicologists and environmental engineers.
How was that?
It was actually really fun. What I told them on the first week, I was like, look, you guys, if you're waiting for me to tell you what to do, we are all in trouble. So the plan is, you tell me what you want to do. I'll go knock down the hurdles, find the resources, make sure that we can make this work. And then, move from that job. I did some video telepresence back in the early days of video telepresence with these big, huge $500,000 studios. And then I saw the job at the Boys and Girls Club opened. And at the time, I was doing a lot of volunteer work through Rotary, doing youth services, and I was on the school board. And I found that I was getting a lot of juice out of doing work on behalf of kids.
Yeah.
So I read an article that the CEO had left and came, and they were looking for somebody. And I said out loud after reading the actual newspaper article, right? It was like, oh man, I'd love to do that job. But I thought, they'd never hire me. So my husband starts bugging me, and he's like, are you going to apply for that job? And I'm like, no way, they'd never hire me. What do I know, right? So many women, right? What do I know about, doing any of these things that I've never done before? So he convinced me to reach out. And so I contacted the board president and said, I'm kind of thinking about this. And he goes, well, put your application in. So I went through the interview process, and they picked me. So after 18 years at HP, I gave them 2 weeks notice. So my last day was on a Friday, and my first day at the Boys and Girls Club was on Monday. And so now I've been there 19 years. And I'm so glad that I've been able to take my business experience into the nonprofit world, because what I found is that we are running businesses. They are just not for profit businesses, but all of the experiences and the skills that I had gained in that work has really helped me on the path of running the Boys and Girls Club of Corvallis.
Oh, that's so great. Thank you for sharing that. And, kind of going back to a podcast that Michelle and I actually did with Camille, who's the CEO of Spirit Mountain Casino. She had a very similar, the position opened up for CEO, and she was kind of like, I kind of want to do it, but why me? And she told us that her grandma growing up always used to say to all the young people in their family, if not you, then who?
Oh, I love that.
And I feel like as women, right, especially even if you are qualified for that leadership position, there's still this thing within you that like that self-doubt. And it seems like in your instance, you had, a supportive partner that kind of pushed you.
Yes.
But is there anything else that you can kind of speak to that piece of it, of just like being in leadership and kind of getting past that hurdle of that self-doubt?
Yeah. So have you all seen the movie Contact with Jodie Foster? Okay. No. I quote this all the time. So all of you listening, you're going to have to go watch this section
Homework.
of the movie. So there is a section where they've designed this machine so that she can go through the wormholes and go find her father who had died. And they've built this contraption. It's this chair. And, so they get ready to go and they hit the go on the button. And she's sitting in the chair and it starts to shake and break apart. And everybody in the control center is very worried. And they're like, should we keep going? Are you okay? Are you okay? And she's sitting there shaking, right, in the chair. And she's like, I'm okay to go. I'm okay to go. Yeah. So that has been my life philosophy. So most of the time I'm scared, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. But I do it anyway. It's like I step forward anyway, in spite of my, fear and trepidation, and of course having somebody in the background who's sort of nudging me along to encourage me to take that step, and maybe helping me believe that I can do something that maybe I don't believe that I can fully do yet. I think that's a big advantage, that we all have at least one person in our life that's just like, you can do this. You ought to go for this. You've got these skills. You've got these capabilities. You'd be great. Go do it. So
thank you for sharing
There
that.
You go. There's a very visual on, I'm okay to go. Just do it anyway. I think
that's so important. I think people have a misconception. We're kind of going off script here, but that CEOs or presidents like have it all figured out. And I think, to what you just said, it's like, no, when you do it anyways.
Yes.
And that a lot of the times is like the distinction.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think diving back into this, we are definitely curious to know, you kind of spoke about it a little bit, but what first inspired you to dedicate your career to working with kids and families? Like, was there a moment or like something that happened that you were like, no, this is my path?
Yeah. Well, I had been doing a lot of just personal development work, probably, 3 or 4 years before that. And it had become really clear to me that the place where I could make a contribution would be in, supporting, the kids in our world, So I didn't connect the two of them, and it didn't happen like, I had this revelation and then it happened the next year. I think it was like 3 years later when this opportunity came forward. But honestly, when I read the article, again, I didn't connect those dots from that experience 3 years before. But again, I was getting so much passion out of the work that I had been doing through, again, the volunteer work for kids, but then also just watching and seeing what was happening for school-age kids through my experience on the school board. And so many kids were getting left behind, and the conversations about what can we do to help kids that are being left behind achieve. And, teens were really, there just wasn't much programming for teens in our community, because once kids hit, 6th or 7th grade, we stopped programming for them as if they're just going to go figure something out on their own, which of course, as we all know, that the older you get and the less supervision and good guidance that you have, the more significant mistakes can be made that have lifelong consequences.
A very vulnerable age to kind of be left to your own devices, right?
Very much so. Very much
Not
so.
Speaking from personal experience.
Yeah, me neither.
Or anything.
Yeah. Well, I'm the last of 8 kids, and I joke a little bit that I'm a bit of a feral child, because by the time they got to,
they were tired.
They were very tired. So, thankfully I made it through, but it would have been good to have probably a little bit more supervision, right? So I think that's what really led to it is, and it was a great time where my husband and I could leave Hewlett-Packard and take a 60% pay cut, to go do a passion job. Yeah. So it was, the timing was just right. And, and I jumped in, and I often say it's probably a good thing that I didn't know everything that was involved in the job, or I probably would have not done it, because I was responsible for unplugging toilets. What? I'm responsible for taking care of a 40,000 square foot building. Me, Helen, is supposed to do that. So there was just a lot of things that once I got in there, it was just like, oh my gosh, But again, you just figure it out. You're just okay to go. You just figure it out.
You just do it anyway.
Yeah, and you call on people that you know, and you use your network and your resources, and you ask for help, and and the magic happens.
Oh, you kind of perfect segue into this next piece. Because of your background is like so varied, I'm wondering how that has really shaped how you lead today. And I would even just go further and be like, the fact that you did have to take care of the toilets, and also you were the CEO. Like, how has taking on all of these different roles, how does that affect how you lead your team now?
Yeah, well, I think at the core of who I am is a coach, because I, even as early as high school, I was teaching tennis. Through college, I was teaching, to make money to go to college. So I really come at things from the perspective of, where I'm there to coach and support. My role is to show you how to hit a better forehand or backhand, to really provide that specific feedback so that you can improve whatever it is that you're working to improve. So I think, that's very much how I approach my work is it's like, I'm here to support you to be the best person that you can be. And what can I do to help you continue to grow? So I would say that, talking to folks that have worked and work in my organization, the commitment is to their development. And I'm really serious about that. It's like, okay, what can we do to keep growing your skill set? Because there are more opportunities in this organization as your capability grows. Or, what do you want to do next? How do we just keep, kind of pushing you to do more, to be able to add more value, to be more, right? To have bigger experiences in your life.
Yeah. And I think not to be too biased, but just knowing you a little bit, you are so not afraid to jump in literally wherever is needed you at like every level of your organization, which I do think is kind of unique for like such a high leadership position. So can you speak to that? Like, why did you decide that? Why did you decide to be the leader that will jump in anywhere that is needed?
Yeah, well, again, that whole thing, leadership sets the tone, and your people watch you. It's like your kids. Your kids are always watching you.
Yes.
They don't always listen to what you say, but they see what you do. And my feeling is if I'm not willing to do a job personally, I kind of have a hard time asking somebody to do a job that I wouldn't be willing to do. Minus answering the phones at the Boys and Girls Club. I'm like, please don't make me answer phones at the Boys and Girls Club. But yeah, I think that's where it comes from is, and then again, the way that I started at the club, I had this amazing facility committee, which was like the original architect,
cool.
community members that helped fundraise and get the building built. So the expectation of what I was going to learn how to do was very high. So I had some, coaches that were teaching me about the things that I needed to pay attention to and to know what to do and how to do it. So, I just have a big, I really want people to own their work. We push responsibility down as low as we possibly can. I tell all of my folks, I'm like, this is your business. And I use the same line I used when I was at HP. I'm like, if you guys are waiting for me to tell you what to do in the teen center, the tech lab, the offsite locations, again, we're all in trouble because I'm not walking your walk. I don't know what the level of details are, but if you can tell me what you need to be successful or to overcome hurdles, I am your gal because I'm really great at finding resources. So, it's kind of like, okay, how do we all put our strengths on the table? And then we support each other through the strengths that we have.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, instead of, so many times we're like, oh, you got to improve your weaknesses, which, again, I think we should continue to grow. And also, how do you let people really shine at the things that they're naturally good at? Because that's where their passion is, right? So you can see the people that love the work that they're doing, or you can see the things that they love to do in their work and the things that they don't like doing so much. So is there a way to guide people to more of the things that they really love to do?
Yes, I think that's such a great point.
And so talking about the Boys and Girls Club, I want to talk about what's happening today. I'm not super familiar with what's going on. So can you just give us kind of a brief overview of what kind of programs and things are available there?
Yeah, so we are all things youth development and athletics. So in Corvallis, we are really the only year-round out-of-school program for elementary, basically kindergarten through 12th grade. So I think we're open almost 300 days a year. I mean, we're almost always there. So the community built the Boys and Girls Clubs facility back in '97. We're having our 50th anniversary this year. So it's been an investment that the community has made to have a youth organization in place. So we do, as I said, it started out as a youth athletics organization. It started as a little baseball program. Sports grew, and then they discovered that they actually needed some after-school care for working families, and so they started after-school programs at in an old school or space, and then it just accelerated. So today, what our club? So what's great about Boys and Girls Clubs, and there's like over 5,000 boys and girls clubs across the nation, is that we all get to be the version that best serves our local community and the interests and needs of that community. And so what we're really focused on in my organization is we lean really heavy into launching kids. We have a big academic focus because a lot of the kids in our community are struggling in reading, math, and science. We are all about job skill development. So we do a lot of career exploration and actual hands-on job development where we pay high school kids in jobs working within the organization.
That's so great.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and we're the big goal a bunch of years ago was to build the workforce of the community. So my vision was, we're going to be the job place for all the employers in the community. They're going to come to us, and we're going to put kids into their businesses. That didn't turn out so great. But what we didn't anticipate is that we're actually building our own workforce. So we have kids that have graduated from high school. They're at either LB or at Oregon State, and they need part-time jobs, so they're staying with us, and they know our culture and they know our programs. So, we kind of do it all, and we're very, youth-led. So we love youth voice. So it's, what do you guys want to do? What can we be doing that will keep you engaged? Because the organization is for them.
Yeah.
So, it's your clubhouse. What do you guys want to do? What can we do to keep it interesting and engaging so that you keep coming? And my favorite mark of quality programming is when parents come and the kids cry because they have to go home. I love that.
You can't be too happy in the moment,
No,
but I'm sure you feel.
I just smile. I'm like, why are you here so early? It's like, they're getting ready to do blah, blah, blah. Why don't you go shopping or just go have a cup of tea and relax and just let them, let them have some fun and finish the program.
That feels like really special, especially in today's world where youth are like so online, which has its pros and its cons, but to have young people actually want to go in person and be around other people, that feels really special. And I think it's a testament to what you have built because let's be honest, youth, if they don't want to go, they're not going.
Nope. No, they are not. And we have probably, 100, 110 teens, just teens. So a lot of organizations are struggling to get teens to come back or to get them at all. So again, it's the mark of quality program because they're coming for the people, right? Because mentorship is a huge, huge deal for any youth organization. And then, of course, what are the valuable things that they're getting while they're there? And what we found is that it's the career exploration and jobs. They want to get that first paycheck.
Yeah. They want to know how to earn some money, obviously. And so can you talk about like what other organizations, youth organizations are in Corvallis and how maybe you are set yourself apart from anybody else?
Yeah. Well, as I said, I think the big thing that separates us is that we're just always there. So there are, like Oregon State has a Kids Spirit program that runs, they'll do individual classes, or they'll run like a summer camp program. Park and Rec will run summer camp programs, but of course, Park and Rec departments do things year round. So we really have been set up to be that place, for elementary. It's, we hate to use the term childcare because we're not a childcare center, and parents are using us as a place for their kids to be safe while they are at work. And so I think that's probably one of the biggest differences is that we're, the reliability, the consistency, we partner with families, which is, again, pretty unique. So I think what gives our organization an advantage with families is that we're not a government agency. And so for families that may have concern about interacting with the government at any level, we're not that. And so, we view ourselves as that trusted partner with families because we're working with them to help them raise their child, because it is really tough to raise kids.
Yes.
Really tough.
And so because you're year round, do you have ongoing enrollment, or how do people sign up for that?
Yeah, we can get new registrations almost every day. So, and again, we have flexibility, part-time, full-time. Our high school program is free. So there is no fee to come to the teen center, which again reduces a barrier, because if you charge, especially high school kids, there is no way their parents are going to pay for that. Right. And there's no way that, the teen is going to get the application home, or, so we're just like, nope, just bring them in, because we'd rather have them at our house, knowing what they're doing and providing like positive options. And, again, you guys, Central Willamette is a big partner for us in our financial education, financial literacy, which is a huge component of our real big vision, which is to end intergenerational poverty in Benton County. So, I stated that 5 years ago, and the first year people laughed at me when I said, our goal is to end intergenerational poverty in Benton County. Oh, ha, ha, ha. I'm like, no, I'm really not kidding. So it's possible. We just have to stick with it. And I think what happens is that when, we as humans don't see like the immediate result, we go, oh, well, that didn't work. But I think the lessons that I've learned working in Boys and Girls Clubs is that, again, kids are watching you. They watch when you start a new program, and they may not join for the first 6 months, but they want to see if you're going to keep going. And so what we do is we keep things going, and then, it grows. Because the kids are like, oh, these guys are actually serious about it. They're not going to just start it and then, yank it away and stop the program, which I think, again, is really hard for some of the kids that we serve that come from, pretty kind of unstable environments where things are moving around on them all of the time. So one of my favorite taglines I use with everybody is, we are just boringly consistent. That's just, we are boringly consistent.
And that's so hard to be.
It is. And it's, and at the same time, we're very innovative because you've been through our organization. Yes. So you can see the innovation of what we're doing. And where we view ourselves as being boringly consistent is that we are there. We have quality programs. Thankfully, we've been able to retain a lot of our staff for many years. They can just count on us.
That's awesome. And is there any initiatives or any programs that you're especially proud of that you love to brag about?
Yeah, well, a couple of them. So kid-related, we actually just started a literacy program. So after looking at the reading test results for Corvallis third graders, so 2 years ago, only 38% of third graders were reading at grade level. So that struck fear in my heart, because if kids can't read, you're going nowhere fast. So, and because, our big vision is to end intergenerational poverty and to really boost these kids forward, I talked with the board, and it's like, we need to do something. We need to get into teaching kids how to read. So we've actually, we were going to start the program regardless, but thankfully we found we won a grant from the Department of Education to do what they call a high dosage tutoring program. So we are running 5 days a week. Wow. We have assessed this term, or this fall, we've assessed 160 kids. And then from that assessment, we'll break them into groupings things based on their reading capability. And then this high dosage tutoring approach is a phonics-based approach. So what we're doing is we're going back to the basics to build the foundation of like, how do you read? Because reading's hard. I mean, it's not natural to humans to read. We're very much an oral tradition people. So we've been doing that. So we hired a licensed teacher, first time ever, to do that.
That's so cool.
But we're investing and we're bringing community volunteers in to help read. Because I tell people, it's like, you have 30 minutes once a week. You could give 30 minutes. It's really 20, to sit down and either let a child read a book to you, or you can, read with the child and help them. So really proud of that one. The other one is that, as we all know, housing is a really big deal for all of us, in the West, and, a lot of people worrying and complaining and all of that about, there's no place to live. And in Corvallis, it's a very difficult housing
expensive.
Market.
Yes.
I think we were like number 1 or number 2 in housing costs. So one of the things that I wanted to do to address our retention and recruitment needs for the Boys and Girls Club is I wanted to solve this problem. So what we ended up doing is, with a local builder who loved the vision, we built employee housing. So we have built 4 townhouses that it's been almost a year now since they moved in. But we've got 2 3-bedroom units, a 2-bedroom unit, and a 1-bedroom unit. They're brand new. I told them I want these to be nice. So this is not college housing. These are young professionals' homes. So I really want these. I want these to be nice, so that they come home to something that they go, this is, this is a nice, peaceful, beautiful place to be. We've reduced the rental rate, so we're only charging about 65% of the Corvallis HUD rate. So, for example, a 2-bedroom is $1,068 for a 2-bedroom unit. 1 bedroom is like $850 a month. So my hope, and I can't make my employees do this, but my hope is that what they'll do is they'll take that extra $1,000, it could be $1,000 more a month that they would be paying market rate in our community. And I'm hoping that they will bring it to Central Willamette and, add to their savings account and grow that money, so that when they get to the point where they're ready to maybe purchase a home, they have a little nest egg that they've been, saving, and then they can use that money for their first down payment. So, it's kind of looking again from a systemic perspective. It's like, how do we make sure that we have healthy, happy employees that aren't living on the edges of poverty, right? Because poverty just adds so much additional stress to your life. So we've been doing that. And let me tell you, if I could have 3 more units tomorrow, I could fill them. So I think those are 2, very opposite end of the spectrum projects.
And let me ask, how those 2 topics seem so big and so overwhelming. How do you, as a CEO, think about what you can do and not get swallowed in the overwhelm of tackling big issues and figure out, well, what can I do? How do you break that down?
That's a great question.
I don't know. It's just how I operate. So
you're
it's
just
like
in your chair.
we just go.
You
So it's so I guess, if I were to, so let's take the housing one. Okay. So it's like, try to figure out how to solve this problem. 2 years before we built it, I pulled a group of people together to just say, I have this idea. I found out that the idea violates all fair housing, rules. I was like, okay, it was kind of like a speed dating for housing, where I was going to have, young professionals that wanted to buy a home with older people that wanted to move out of their homes, and see if I could pair them up, and maybe the older people would feel philanthropic and
there
not try
are
to
models of that.
Well, and maybe not try to get as much money as humanly possible out of their home because they can, and connect these 2. And then of course my parade got rained on that one. So, but I just kept talking to people about, I want to solve this problem. I want to figure out if there's something we could do for our employees. And then I learned about a model that the Boys and Girls Club of Nantucket did. And so Boys and Girls Club of Nantucket has built, I think they've got 26 units of employee housing.
Wow.
And it's been a game changer for them. So I think that what I do is I sort of get an idea of where I want to go, and I just start engaging different people and having conversations and sort of building the path that we can take to get there. And as you heard, I sometimes walk down a path and run right into a wall. But, you got to turn around and and see if there's another way, through the maze to get to where you're going. And, I found that for everything that we've done, it never ends up the way that I thought it was going to go. So I think it's also just being flexible enough in your forward momentum that you just need to be open. So if you know where you're going and it's getting you there in a way that maybe you didn't envision, but you keep going. And so many people just quit. Oh, that's too hard. I'm just going to quit.
Well, and I think a lot of people are afraid to put that voice out there, to ask the question, can I do this? Whereas you just tackle the problem. You just engage in those conversations to see if the idea has legs. I think people are afraid of getting laughed at or getting told you're ridiculous or that's too big of a problem. And so they don't even initiate that conversation.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. No, one of the other things I tell my team is like, if as long as it's legal and it's ethical and it doesn't cost us too much money, let's do it. So really trying to drive that innovative spirit. And I would say that, that was developed in my 18 years at HP. HP was a very innovative company. It embraced, exploring new realms. Every product, HP was 3 to 5 years ahead of everybody. Unfortunately, sometimes they would bail on projects that like 3D printing. They were into 3D printing 25 years ago.
Wow. Should have stuck with it.
I know. So it's just so it's kind of like I bring that training from Hewlett-Packard to the Boys and Girls Club. It's like, well, we want to have the highest quality, most fun Boys and Girls Club that we possibly can because, we think in kid years. So I always tell people, think about a kindergartner, okay? When they start kindergarten in September, they're 5.5-ish or something. And then watch that kid and look at them in June. They are not even the same little people.
It's pretty wild, actually.
So the growth is tremendous. So I constantly challenge my team to think in the terms of kid years because they move so fast. And a month can be life-changing to a kid.
Yes.
So, sitting around and having meetings about trying something is not how we operate. So even the literacy program, before we had the grant, we started piloting it over at one of the local elementary schools.
Because you've been at that for a while now.
Yeah, so we started in May of last year at another site and just said, well, we have this idea, let's just give it a go. And I had staff that were excited about it. So we started down that path. And then we got the grant with the Department of Education, hired the licensed teacher, started to build the program, ran a pilot this summer. And now we're like going. Just started 1st of October.
I love that. What I love about that is that you just do it and then you change and you adapt as you go along versus like the 10 years of planning that many corporations do, right? Which, I have a tendency to do that, to over-research, to over-plan, to, and then you get afraid of taking that first step, right?
Yes.
But you are the kind of the opposite. You have this great idea. You want to see how it works in real life. You make any changes as you need to.
Yeah.
Which is
because, you don't know until you start walking the path.
It's so true.
Right? So you start walking down the path and you learn so much by starting.
Yes.
You learn nothing by not starting.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important thing for all of us to kind of remember.
Yeah.
And I think to your point too, it's like you can plan for something for years until you start doing it. You honestly have no idea.
Yes.
And so you might as well just shorten that space in between and learn as you're going.
Absolutely.
Learn as you're doing.
Yeah. And there's a lot of folks that like to sit on the sidelines and criticize. But I just want to say, you know what? As soon as you get on the field, then you can have an opinion. But, you don't get to sit in the sidelines and throw stones and criticize. And because, what do you know? And if we listen to those people, shame on us.
We would never get anything big done.
No. Because, again, the people that are throwing stones are not people with vision and big vision. And, they're not trying to, like, make the world bigger, right? It's the criticism to hold you in your place. And so it's, again, as women, we sometimes have to be twice as good to, get the recognition, all of the things, right? But you pick the few people whose critique matters to you,
Right.
right? So if they're doing things or have achieved big things in their life, and those are the ones you want to listen to. When somebody comes to me and say, "Hey, Helen, blah 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 blah," it really depends on who's telling me, Or
Right.
and oftentimes I will go out and seek that feedback from people, because I'm just making this up as we go. Which, when I worked at HP, they hated it when I said that. I don't know, I just made it up. And they're just like, "You can't say that in an engineering company." Oh, okay.
And you did anyway.
According to the research and the data. So yeah, because again, if you listen to what people are telling you and you observe what is happening around you, there is so much information that is telling you the path that you could take, right? Again, if your goal is to solve problems or, build a better mousetrap or whatever, it's just, listen to what people are telling you.
I think that resonates with all of us, that piece of like learning how to filter the feedback and the criticism based on your own values of what you want to be.
Yeah.
And I think when I'm going to speak for myself, younger in my career, it's like you start getting all of this feedback from all these different angles, and it's so overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, you have to just stay on your path. You got there for a reason, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
So.
Yeah. And again, I would tell, I use the term young professionals. I hope it's not insulting, but anybody that's like younger than me, but it's like, find a good mentor, find somebody that you trust that will tell you, the truth or their truth, or, however that works. But, having, again, a person that will just be really honest with, how am I showing up, or I approach this, and what would you suggest?
Yes.
And I just find that to be incredibly helpful, and has been very helpful to me in all of my working years.
Oh, that's great. I think we're going to now, kind of going off of that, talk a little bit just about community support and really just the impact that community has on the club.
Mm-hmm.
So really, why is community support so important for the success of the club and your youth? I think you've kind of alluded to it, but this feels like a really important piece of your mission, and is partially why you guys have been so successful and so innovative.
Yeah, well, none of us can do anything alone, right? And nonprofits really do rely on strong partnerships in the community. So again, looking at an organization like the Boys and Girls Club, we have a facility to run. So you can believe that I have a little Rolodex of my people that, for example, if we have a solar panel fire, which we did, I've got them in my bat phone, and they will answer my phone calls, right? So having community partners that have skill sets to do that. I can't hire the skills to come in. Like, for example, financial literacy.
Mm-hmm.
You all at Central Willamette are experts at financial literacy. I'm employing 18 to 22-year-old college students who are learning as they go. So they don't have the skills and experience to teach those topics. So we go out and we find partners that can help us with that. Even our other partnerships, we have a dental clinic inside of our club. We partner with Benton County Health Department because I am not a dental person.
I think you could be if you tried.
Well,
you can do anything,
when it first opened, when it first opened, Dr. Johnson made me come in and help because this little girl had a terrible abscess, and he made me kind of hold her hands, and I was just like, "Okay, everybody, floss your teeth. Okay, I'm just telling you,
seriously,
take care of your teeth." And then with Samaritan Health, we have a youth mental health and medical clinic above on the second floor of the teen center. Again, we wanted to address teen suicide, which was a significant issue back in 2016. Again, lots of community meetings. Nothing was happening. We needed more capacity. When we built the teen center in 17, 18, we figured, well, we're going to build this once. So how could we impact the issue of capacity with youth mental health providers by building a location, and then could we find a way to bring in more providers? And Samaritan has tripled the number of youth mental health workers, psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors. They even host psychiatry fellows, which are, they're in their residency. And I love the days, the week where we have one of them come down and participate in club programs. I always say, you get to come down and see kids in their native environment. So you get to see like how kids interact and all of that.
Yeah.
So, but everything is a partnership. All of our sports programs run 100% by volunteer coaches. So these are parents and adults in the community that are dedicating hundreds of hours in a season to help kids get the experience of playing a sport. I mean, we just couldn't do it if folks in the community didn't step forward and help us.
Yeah, and I don't think, Michelle, you've been over to the teen center, but I am so impressed by that teen center. They have their own podcast studio over there. They like, to your point, a mental health clinic upstairs. There's a dental clinic. Like, I just think back to my own experience as being a youth, also kind of navigating being in poverty and being first gen. And oh my God, if I had access to those things, and just, other people in my life, I think like you're not only, you're feeling like this, going back to that idea of solving intergenerational poverty. Like, these services really can be life or death for folks. And to your point about flossing, teeth, dental health, how that affects all other parts of your body.
Huge.
I just really was struck by that teen center and just how comprehensive that was. And seeing like you celebrate all of your partners. They're all over the walls. You make sure that they're a part of that story. You can't walk into the Boys and Girls Club of Corvallis and not see how supported you are by your partners. And I think that's important. And going into, you were talking about volunteers. We want to hear about that a little bit more. Like, what do your volunteers mean to you guys at the club? And like, how do they impact your youth there?
Yeah. And what I would say is that the volunteers mean a lot to the kids. So when the volunteers come in and read, though, and I've volunteer read too, and the kids they eat it up because it's a one-on-one focused attention that it's just for them, right? And they just look so forward to having that adult come in. And it's really fun when we get people that come in regularly, because the kids, they're kids, right? They're so like open and welcoming, and they see their favorite reading person. And of course, then the adult gets all, mushy because they're like, oh, they remembered me. I'm like, of course they did.
Yeah.
So, it's really about how the kids are benefiting. Youth athletics, the kids are benefiting from these adults that are giving of their time and their experience and their attention to really help develop these youth. So it's just, as one of our longtime volunteers said, it impacted him more. So even though he was volunteering and helping other people, he would always say that it made his tummy warm, right? Because he would get that warm, feeling about just helping. Because when you're doing something for another, it just gives you so much back. It's just almost indescribable. So if you're feeling like, something's missing in your life, or you need that little extra something, or it's like, go do something for somebody else. It will just completely change your perspective,
or go volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club of Corvallis.
Absolutely, yes.
Read to some kids.
30 minutes. It's nothing, Monday through Friday, like 4:30 to 5.
I scroll on my phone for more minutes than that, not to call myself out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's
true.
like, where are we putting our time? And to just know that, I'm sure if I were to say, don't tell me, but think of a person who in your childhood changed your life, who had super big impact. And I bet a person popped right into your mind. So you can be that person for a kid, and it could be as simple as, because kids' moments are, they think that a 5-minute experience was a lifetime. But that 5-minute experience where an adult really made a kid feel seen or loved, or, celebrated a win for that child, it can launch them into this direction that makes them believe, right, that they can do more, be more. They are smart, they are capable. It's just, so it's really not so much about the club. It's all about the kids, and how it changes their lives. And that's the best part of the work that I do, which has probably kept me in what I would describe as probably the hardest job that I've ever had, because those doors have to open. So for me, the failure is not an option. So, and it's all about, in my world, it's about raising the money and making sure that we can pay the people to do the work to keep those doors open. So, for me, it's like these doors just have to open. There's no option. We need to be here for these families because it makes a huge difference. It matters.
That's awesome. And looking ahead, you've been there such a long time, and I'm sure you're going to continue. What is your long-term goal, and what's some of your long-term visions for the Boys and Girls Club?
Yeah, well, I'm going to go back to boringly consistent. So it's hard to know where the world is going to take us. So I would say the long-term vision is to continue to stay nimble, to continue to pay attention to what are the problems that are bubbling up for youth and families, and where can we contribute, because we really view ourselves as problem solvers. So I would say that long-term vision is just don't lose sight, don't get jaded. It's really easy to get jaded in the work that we do. Keep that open heart so that we can continue, again, to meet kids where they are and help them develop and grow. And then, of course, keep the doors open, continue to engage community.
Keep the cafe going.
Keep the coffee shop going, keep club retail happening. And I would say, from a long-term perspective, I hope the mark that I leave, so when I eventually do retire, I hope that I leave a culture embedded so deeply of people that are there knowing that we move at the speed of kid. We're boringly consistent. We strive for innovation to make sure that every kid that comes through our door gets that opportunity that if not for the club, they would not get, because it comes down to, in life, so often it's not always what we know, it's who we know. And because of many of the kids that we serve, they don't have parents like me, right, that can get them connected all over the place. But what they do have is they do have me, and they have our whole organization, and we connect those kids into the social networks of the community so that they have their mentor, right? They have their local person that's going to see what their interest is, and they're going to pull them forward. And it happens so many times in our Youth of the Year program where our kids get up there and they give their speeches and they talk about what they aspire to be. And after every single program, one or two adults comes up to each kid individually and says, "Oh, you want to be a nurse? I can help you with that. Oh, you want to get into construction?"
I saw that happen.
Which was our high school girl that won. She wants to get into construction and build homes because she spent most of her life homeless.
Oh my God.
And so now she is working for Hender Design in Corvallis, and she's going to LB. And, so it was so great because community members come up and say, "I can help you with that." And where does that happen in this world, right? So again, I always tell people, the Boys and Girls Club is a magical place. You get involved, it will change you for the better. And for real.
Yes. And I feel like people don't realize the power that they have. Like, they don't understand that they can help these kids. Someone can say, "Oh, I'm just a nurse," or "Oh, I'm just a receptionist at a whatever."
Yes.
But people, you've made the journey, you've done things in your life, and you can help. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand their own power within themselves.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's the, what do I know?
Yeah.
Well, you
exactly.
actually know a lot.
You know a lot.
You know a lot. Yeah.
And what would you say to somebody who is maybe thinking about contacting you to volunteer or to maybe build a partnership with you? What kinds of things are you looking for?
Yeah, so obviously we're looking for adults that want to read with kids. That's really what we're pushing on right now. We always have coaching opportunities for different sports. So we're wrapping up fall sports, but we'll be coming into basketball, and we have cheer, and we're going to start dance in the winter.
Cool.
Lots of ways to get involved there. Even, we need help in our finance office sometime. My whole organization is run by one financial manager, one. So, bringing people in to help in that way, I'm just trying to think of all the the different ways. Of course, give to the club. If you have a business and, you want to make impact for kids and also get some visibility, because, our feeling is if local businesses do well, then we do well. Mm-hmm. So we're very generous in communicating the businesses that support us. And we encourage, when we hold our annual fundraising breakfast, I stand up at the podium and tell everybody, I'm like, look at the people who sponsored this. Look at all the banners that are hanging around this gym. It's like, please do business with these people, because they're making an investment in our future generation. And so let's make sure that our businesses are healthy so they can keep giving in that way.
So it really is a partnership.
100%. Awesome. Yeah, because, it's all this beautiful, collaboration. And again, you do well, we do well.
Absolutely.
There's enough for everybody. I mean, as really coming from an abundance perspective, right? We can all help each other. And by coming together, there's more for everybody. There is not less for everybody.
I think that some of us lose sight of that, that there is enough for everyone.
There is enough. Yeah.
So I love that you said that. Well, Helen, thank you so much for sharing your journey and leadership with us today. The work you're doing at the Boys and Girls Club of Corvallis is truly shaping brighter futures for kids and families in our community. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on the Better Lives podcast. To learn more about the Boys and Girls Club of Corvallis, please visit bgccorvallis.org. And to see how Central Willamette supports local communities, visit us at centralwcu.org. Until next time, thanks for listening as we continue to build better lives together.
The information provided here is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. Consult with a qualified financial advisor before making any financial decisions.